Before you file a visa petition for your mother, think long and hard about it. And don't just presume that you know what's best for her. First of all, you should be talking to her to see if she even wants to come here. She might not. Secondly, if you have a partner, you need to have a real heart-to-heart with your partner to see if he or she is okay with mom coming and living in the house. It's going to change the whole dynamic. This video is intended to help you make a decision about whether or not you should petition for your mom. I'm going to just presume in this video that mom is single. She's either widowed, divorced, maybe dad was never even in the picture. So she's going to be a single woman living abroad, and I'm going to have the petitioner be a male. And that's just to make it easier for me, that I don't have to keep saying he, she. Just keep those two things straight. Let's start looking at some of the reasons why you should petition for her. The first reason is obvious: family reunification. Everybody gets together, right? You get to finally take care of your mother instead of having to fly back home to see how she's doing. Every time there's an issue, you have to be on the phone. It gets very complicated. Everybody can be living together. That's the obvious advantage of petitioning for mom. Secondly, is the emotional support. And you're probably thinking, I mean that you are the emotional support for your mom. That's true in part, but it can also be that your mother gives you emotional support, gives your spouse emotional support, gives the grandchildren emotional support. It's a win-win for everybody. The third reason, obviously, especially if your parents are getting older and beginning to have problems, is elder care. Being able to take care of her as she ages, as she begins to have some medical issues. Fourth, connected to third, is healthcare access. Once she becomes a permanent resident, she might have some access to better healthcare in this country. Maybe she lives in a small town or even a village back home where they don't have health care, they don't have good health care. At least here, she would have the benefit of the health care that we have. The fifth reason is that you have controlled living arrangements. You're in control now. You're not the kid that she controlled. Now you can control her situation. You know that she's in a safe house. She's not going to be falling down steps. She's secure. She's comfortable. She's eating correctly. You have a lot of control over her environment, which will hopefully be for the best for her. The sixth reason, which I mentioned above a little bit, is strengthening family ties, right? I mean, you end up with the kids being able to be around their grandmom. Maybe she's going to teach them some of her recipes. Maybe she's going to teach them her language, and the kids can help her learn English. It can be a very positive experience to have grandmom living with you. The seventh reason is emotional security. And by that, I mean your emotional security. Just like I mentioned above, you know that she's safe here in the United States and she's under your care. So it gives you some peace of mind. You don't have to be constantly worried about what she's doing back home, how she's doing. Number 8 doesn't apply to everybody, but if you can get her to come here and her country is suffering through war or a horrible government or unsafe conditions, maybe, in her neighborhood, the gangs have taken over, you can have her safe and secure with you. She doesn't have to live in that environment anymore. That's a big plus for her and for you. The ninth reason is that she becomes part of your support network. She can be a caregiver. She can help with the children if she's in a position to be able to do that. Maybe she's the one who cooks the meals every day. So she can actually help you as opposed to just you helping her. She can help you as well. The 10th reason is because if you file for her, she becomes a permanent resident. In 5 years, she has the right to apply for citizenship. This depends on your mom. Is she able to read and write English? She might be from Ireland or England or Australia. Or she's very good with foreign languages and she makes an effort to learn the language. For the moms that don't, citizenship could very well not be a part of the equation, because by the time she has enough time in to take the citizenship test in her native language, she might be too old to even be able to do that. Although I've known people who have, become U.S. citizens in their 90s, so it's not an impossibility. So what's the big plus for being a U.S. citizen? Well, number one, you get to vote in elections. For some people, they couldn't care less. They didn't vote back home. They're not going to vote here. But for other people, it's very important to feel like they're a part of a society and that their voice is being heard. Another reason, they can get a U.S. passport. Again, it depends on the situation and what country she's from, but for a lot of people, having a U.S. passport makes international travel easier. A third reason is that she can go back and stay in her home country for as long as she wants. If she's a permanent resident, she's supposed to be residing here permanently. She's not supposed to be traveling back and forth and spending, 5 months there, 6 months here, 5 months there, 6 months here. They're not going to like that, particularly under this administration. As a U.S. citizen, she can file for her other children. You might have already filed, should have. If you have siblings who want to come here, you should file for them because it's going to take a long time. As soon as mom becomes a permanent resident, she can file for any of her children who are not married. If they get married, that's a problem. If they are married and they get divorced, then she can file for them. Okay, they don't have to always have been unmarried. That's my point. But if she's a U.S. citizen, it takes less time to be able to bring those other family members here along with their own spouses and children. If she's young enough and healthy enough and wants to work for the federal government, she can. That's another plus. It depends. Is she 45 or is she 67? It depends. But that's a possibility. And then the last one is that she can't get deported. Like if in her old age she becomes a kleptomaniac or something, and she's gotten now, this is her third arrest for shoplifting, she's not going to get deported. It's just an idea. Just keep it in the back of your mind. You don't know about what she's been doing back home while you've been over here. People do change. Anyway, let me just take a quick break and ask you if you're finding any value in this, if you're enjoying this, please hit like, please hit subscribe. I'm trying to get some subscribers because I don't have that many. I'm still working on it. That way, if you subscribe, you won't miss the content that I put out. Okay, so now let's go on to some of the reasons that you shouldn't do it. Or you might choose not to. Maybe shouldn't do it is too strong. But maybe you decide, I don't think I'm going to want to do this. Number one, most importantly, it's always about the Benjamins. It's about financial responsibility, okay? you have to sign an I-864 affidavit of support. That is a binding legal contract. That means when you sign that contract, that I-864, you're saying your mother will not become a public charge, that you will support her. What happens if she has a fall or breaks her hip? You got to pay for the ambulance, you got to pay for the emergency room, you got to pay for the hospital. If you have not set up medical insurance for her while she's here, one of the first things you should do, by the way, once she gets here, you've got yourself a big problem, because she can't use, especially the first 5 years of being a permanent resident, she can't use federal benefits or state benefits for medical. You're going to have to hoof that bill. Is that an expression? Hoof that bill? Okay, you're going to have to handle that bill, is what I'm trying to say. Now, that contract, just so that you know, that contract is valid and binding until one of a couple of things happens. One is if she works for 40 quarters. 40 quarters, that means 10 years. Once, if she does not become a U.S. citizen, once she's worked for 10 years, then you're off the hook. 2, it ends if she becomes a U.S. citizen. I should have put that up on the list. Another reason for her, what's one of the benefits of becoming a U.S. citizen? If she becomes a citizen, you're off the hook. 3rd, if she passes away. That's pretty much it. And that's true for the spousal petitions as well. Divorce does not end the responsibility of that I-864. The second reason that you might want to think twice is what I just mentioned about the healthcare costs. She might have perfectly fine healthcare in her home country, might be better off there than what we could provide for her here. You have to weigh the pros and the cons with that. Another reason is the whole cultural adjustment for her, right? Connected to that is the language barrier. It's going to be very difficult for her to come here if she's never been here. Even people who have been here, who have visited a couple of times, maybe they only visited in the summer, and they're coming to my neck of the woods where winter gets cold. They might not like it. They might not like even the culture of the people around them. They might not be able to speak the language, so they're really limited as to what they can do and where they can do it. They're going to be dependent upon you. They're waiting for you to get home because she needs to go buy something at the store, but she can't drive, doesn't have a driver's license, and she's dependent upon you, and that's more and more pressure on you, right? You and your partner maybe are both working. Then they come home, and it's great, she's made the meal, but the kids are fighting with each other, and you have all these issues, and she's always crying in her room because she misses her other grandchildren or her other daughter who's back home, who would treat her so much nicer than you do. I mean, I'm telling you, it's going to be emotionally traumatic for her, but it's going to be very emotional for you and your family too. Another thing that might be an issue, and might be more of an issue than you think it's going to be, is there's going to be higher living expenses for you and your family. The water bill is going to go up. The food bill is going to go up. And there might be things that she wants to have. Things in the United States, generally speaking, are more costly than some other countries. Might be more expensive for her to live here. Another issue for her could be the whole social isolation. She doesn't speak the language. Maybe you live in an area where there are a lot of people from your country. Great. There's a social club. Every week you guys get together in the summer for picnics and barbecues, and she gets to meet some people, and great. Maybe you don't. Maybe you're the only Albanian family in the entire state, and she's just sort of isolated off by herself. You guys are gone all day because you're working. The kids are in school. She's by herself. People can get very sad and depressed. I don't know how many parents, this is one of the reasons I made this video, I don't know how many parents I've had where the kids do everything that they can. They finally can petition for them. They bring both mom and dad over, which is not my scenario in this video. But, you know, mom and dad come over, and within a year and a half, they move back home because they don't want to be here. And dad in particular doesn't want to be here. And lastly, something that you might not have thought about is that you're now going to have another dependent. And Junior might be headed off for college, and it might impact the financial aid package he's eligible for. Just think about those things. Now we're going to talk real quick because this is not a difficult visa to file. Just want to explain to you how you go about filing for these papers, what you need to do. And by the way, one more time, if you like this, if you're still watching, please hit like and subscribe. Leave a comment, share it with somebody if you think this is important for somebody. I'd really appreciate it. Thank you. So how do you file the I-130? First of all, I don't think, unless there's some issues, which we are going to talk about right near the end. We're almost done anyway. But there are sometimes when you should use an attorney. But generally speaking, this is probably the easiest visa petition you could file. You need the I-130, needs to be filled out. You have to be a U.S. citizen. You have to be over 21. You're going to need certain things. You're going to need proof that she's your mother, okay? That means your birth certificate with her name listed as the mother. If you were adopted, you need a copy of the final adoption papers. And as for the adoption, to be able to file for a woman who adopted you, she has to have adopted you before you were 16. If she's a stepmom, then you have to show, number one, that she was actually married to your father and that previous marriages had ended either through death or divorce. You need her birth certificate, because you always need her birth certificate. Anything that's not in English needs to be translated and needs to have a certificate of translation. I did a whole video about how to do that and not screw it up. I mean, you could do your own translations, but you should watch that video if you're thinking about doing that. Parents of a U.S. citizen are considered immediate relatives. What's that mean? That means spouses, minor children, and parents. There is a visa automatically available for them. There's a much shorter wait than any other category. So that's good. However, she has to be admissible into the United States. And this is what I referenced just a couple of seconds ago when I was talking about when you might need an attorney. If she's had any criminal convictions, if she's had any immigration fraud. In fact, I would say if she applied for visas before and got denied, you should talk to an attorney. If she has any health-related grounds, and generally that means they have some kind of a mental or physical disability that creates behavior that causes problems for people, makes other people or property unsafe. And if she's had any prior removals from the United States, if she's ever been here and overstayed visas, you should get a consultation with an attorney, because sometimes there's waivers, sometimes there's not, but that complicates the situation and you should see an attorney. Now, there's two ways to do it. One is if she's here, having made a legal entry, and the other is if she's back home, has never been here, or hasn't been here in 20 years. In this video, I'm talking about mom who's home. The whole adjustment of status here, that's for a different video, okay? So this is for consular processing. What do? You file that I-130. It doesn't take that terribly long to get this thing approved. It could be 8 months, 12 months, but generally USCIS approves these fairly quickly. Costs $625. If you're going to do it online, it costs $675 if you're doing it via paper. I already went through the whole list of stuff that you need. You're going to get, when this gets approved, you get an approval notice, right? And that approval will also be sent to the consulate that you list in the form, that's where you want the visa to go. And that's normally, not always, but that's normally in the capital of your country or in a big city close by you. You'll have to look that up. You're going to have to Google that, maybe talk to your own consul to make sure you know where you want this visa sent. So at this point, USCIS is the one that decides the I-130. They then send it to the Department of State. Okay? USCIS, Department of Homeland Security, the National Visa Center, Department of State. They're going to send you a letter. In my experience, they send both email and a real honest-to-God letter. And the first thing they want, guess, take a wild guess, what's the first thing they want? Money. They're going to tell you you have a fee for the affidavit of support and you have a fee for the immigrant visa. So you got to pay them first. Once you pay those two fees, then you have to fill out the affidavit of support. You've got to send them copies of your tax transcripts. They don't want to see copies of your 1040s, stuff that you saved. They want to see what the IRS received. So you go up on irs.gov. If you don't have an account with them, make an account. And then simply ask for the transcripts for the last 3 years. You also need to prove that you're still working. So you need copies of your most recent pay stubs, or you can get a letter from your employer that's dated on letterhead, date, signature, and it says exactly how much money you make. The government wants to be able to determine how much you make. Don't say he makes $12 an hour or he makes $25 an hour without saying how many hours a week you work. Okay? They want to know exactly how much you're making. Once you have all that stuff done, they're going to tell you, great, you're ready to go. You need a medical exam and you need an interview. They're going to tell you where to go for the medical exam. Mom can't go to her regular doctor. She has to go to a specific doctor that they tell her to go to. And then there's going to be the date for the interview. And generally speaking, unless there's something really screwy that you didn't know about, like maybe she had applied for a visa a couple of years back and never told you, or she told you and you forgot, and they're going to have a whole record of anything she's ever applied for. So if she lied at that interview to just try to come over, that could be an issue. So sometimes things happen at the interview that you're not expecting. Do you have to attend the interview? You don't have to. But if you can, you should. That's what I always say. If you can, you should. First of all, go see Mom. There's going to be stuff, if this gets approved, she's going to have to sell her house maybe, or maybe she's got a car, maybe she's got furniture that she wants to give away. She's going to need some help with some of that stuff too. So if you can, go to the interview. You don't have to. But if you can, you should. And what else? Anything else? Oh, entry into the United States. Oh, before I say that, when she goes to the interview, that's when she brings all her original documents. At this point, they're only going to have copies of the documents. They're going to want to see the original documents. You know all this because you've already done all this to get your own permanent residence. And of course, she needs a medical exam. And sometimes the doctors send them medical results just directly to the consul, and sometimes they make the person come and pick it up. That depends on the place where you're going. Then she can come over, and once she gets approved, she can come over. I think she's got 6 months to use that visa. Make sure she uses it. And another thing, please remember, I say it all the time, you're not a permanent resident just because you got that nice, new, beautiful immigrant visa stamp in your passport. That does not make you a permanent resident. She has to enter the United States. As soon as she enters the United States, boom, she's a permanent resident. She'll be getting her green card in the mail. She can then go back home if she wants to. The next day she can go back. But she has to make an entry to actually become a permanent resident. So that's all I'm going to tell you about this right now. Please, the most important thing you can do is talk to two people, maybe even your whole family. One is your partner, to be sure, really be sure that she wants this to happen. Two is to talk to mom herself.